Hi everyone, welcome back to day 3 of our illustration stream. This week has been all about creating digital illustrations, and I'm your host Alice. We're joined today again with Meg Hunt.
Hi.
Who's been working all week on her very delightful illustration filled with puppies and colors and fun Photoshop
colors
tricks.
And textures and all that fun stuff.
Yes, yes. So it's been really cool to see the whole thing come together from sketch all the way to now, and today we're putting the final touches on it.
Yep. Yeah, so today I'll kind of walk you through where I'm at with it. I did a little bit more work overnight, just kind of tweaking colors, and just like I'll step you through that, and then we'll also be seeing some process, maybe a little bit of collaboration will be happening as well.
Yeah.
And we'll also be reviewing portfolios, right?
Yeah, so today's also a bit of a fun change in the format. Instead of doing a challenge, we're going to have portfolio reviews at the end. So Meg and I will be looking at 2 portfolios. If you want to participate, you can find all of this information in the challenge tab, which is right next to the chat. And then just make sure to submit your portfolio for review before, within the next hour and a half. And we'll have 2 that we'll be looking at. And also, if you have submitted your portfolio in past sessions, you'll need to submit it again to be considered. Yeah, to be eligible. Just want to make sure everyone's here. So yeah, and then we also have another very fun giveaway today. We've got a ultra pack.
Yeah.
So we've got this Adobe Illustrator pin, enamel pin, as well as a sticker. And we have 3 prints from Jean Wei, Robzilla, and Christine Heron. And also, an added bonus, Meg has very generously included her delightful creature feature mix and match paper doll set. If you could talk a little
Sure,
bit.
definitely. So this is actually 4 different sheets of images that you can cut out, and it comes with brads so that you can mix and match between different mythological creatures, from satyrs to mermaids and all other fun things in between. So it's lots of fun, and I'd love to see what you guys can make with it. So definitely enter.
Yeah, Meg just gave me one. I'm actually very excited to play around with it. So yeah, the giveaway will be happening about 30 minutes into our stream today. So again, if you want to participate, it's really simple. All you have to do is get super hyped and be active in the chat, and then we'll pick a random winner. So without further ado, let's get started.
Okay,
Day 3.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now where I'm at, I took a screen cap of where I was when we stopped our last stream, and we flattened in a lot of the colors, started playing around with some brushes, a lot of the CC Kyle brushes, more along the lines of the rakes, and a couple of the more Xerox brushes up here in the dog's harness. So the color palette feels pretty well realized, and then so part of the little behind the scenes as I'm doing these things is, I pick colors and then I look at them and I'm like, they're good, but they don't fully feel quite right, or the combos just don't seem all the way there. So this morning I worked on it a bit more, and so this is where we're at right now. I started filling in this dog's body so that he pushes back into the composition a little bit more. I decided to actually fill in the, in here we have this cobra sticker that I figured would be kind of a fun. Well, he's kind of derpy, but I like him anyway.
Yeah, it's awesome.
To kind of give that. And part of our collaboration today, we have these posters, which are pretty blank right now, but I feel like Alice is going to make some really cool things to just play around and have some good opportunities for a different style and some character. But I just kind of brought in a little bit more texture. These are actually up here, these little graffiti marks were little scribble marks that I had made before for a previous project, and I figured they would give a lot of that organic kind of gritty graffiti texture. So that's just a file that I had here.
Awesome.
Which last year I worked on this kind of YA book that was all about puberty basically, and I had to do 200 illustrations in the course of a month and a half basically. And to do that, that's a lot of work, obviously. So I had to figure out ways to streamline that a bit. And part of it was trying to look like a kind of like a teen girl's sketchbook. So we need like sketchy sorts of unfinished drawings. And so I just had a day where I was like, I'm gonna just fill a page with marks, and then using that technique I did on day one, I separated out from the background, and all these textures I sometimes will just like take and paste in, and they just give some more organic mark making to the whole feel.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it works really nicely, and it's kind of like collaging in a way. Like you don't necessarily know how those pieces are going to come together until you start moving them around and seeing how they'll work. But it's really fun, and I really like the looseness that things like that can provide.
Yeah.
So yeah, most of it's still pretty on point. I kind of pushed her jacket a little bit more because the way I was showing, I think on day one, also like proofing it and seeing how it would look in grayscale, it felt a little flat, all the values. And I can kind of show you guys that too. So one of the actions I have that I made was that gray proof sort of action that I showed on day one. And so if you look at it now, it's a little bit more akin to like a richer range of values. Before, her puffy sleeves were kind of the same tone as the rest of her jacket, and it just felt like it was getting kind of flat. So just find these little things where I can just push it a little bit more.
Yeah, people in the chat are loving the texturing.
Thank you.
Heidi and Jan say that the texturings are looking so good. Aaron actually has a question.
Yeah.
Do you just paste them into the image, or do you have you ever thought about turning any of those textures into a brush?
I have played around with making them into a brush. It's been a little while since I've done that because there's a lot of like tweaking behind the scenes with all the brush palettes. I like the idea, but I used to use it like a few years ago. I would take textures like that and use them more for like stamping rather than drawing. And so if I made a brush, then I might like dial down the opacity down to like 10 or 15% and then just kind of like lightly dab on it, and it gave it more like a pastel build up sort of feel. But that's a really great suggestion. I think that can be a lot of fun to like just build off your own organic textures that way.
Totally. So shout out to everyone in the chat who's joining us again. Hey Deval, hey Joseph, hey Martin. Thanks again for joining us on day 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So glad you guys have stayed around and watched us make some magic this way.
Yeah, totally. So it's also been cool to see how you dealt with like the hierarchy of colors. Like I noticed you made, like you mentioned, you made like the spotty dog
Yeah.
like more into the background, just because he's like a little darker now. It really draws your eye too.
I feel like it's pretty important to think about that, especially when you have so many colors working all at the same time, because if they're all really bright and kind of at the same level, then it's really hard to figure out that focus. And I'm always trying to think of just like, what's the main thing I want somebody to look at? And right now, I really like the idea that this lady is taking kind of full focus, and the dogs are still like really bright and energetic, and you know they're bringing in some of the other parts of the colors from the palette. Like I hadn't really thought about it, but once I pulled this dog a little darker, then I was like, oh, the harness could be really fun to have that yellow. And I actually really love that combo together of like this really dark kind of chocolate with bright yellow. It's so nice.
Yeah. And Martin also is saying that your thank you bag looks nice, which I agree. It does
Thank you.
nice.
Yeah, those bags are so great. I've seen so many. Actually, I've seen a lot of people doing fashion with that, where it's just like thank you, like all across the shirt.
Oh, okay.
And I really like that.
Very cool.
Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out. The downside is like you have so many brushes and then having to go through them all. I should just close my folders because that would make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
But there's just so many to choose from.
It's cool. Well, if any of you also have questions about Meg's approach,
Yeah, feel free to ask.
feel free to just shout it out in the chat. Paco, can we get the chat on the screen again? Yeah, so as a bit of a challenge for today, I'm going to be doing a little bit of tag team
Art making.
background work. Yeah, a little bit of a collab.
Yeah.
So Maggie mentioned that in the background there's these blank posters, and we can fill them in with
Yeah, I kind
something
of figure
fun.
they can be just like a really fun opportunity. You know, if you think of just like a busy city street, like you have all these posters for like concert venues or just, different advertisements and things like that. I don't think we have to do anything real world sort of thing. We can be playful, and if any of you in the chat want to suggest maybe some inside jokes, that might be really fun. I know we talked about bananas and things like that before.
We've got a few inside jokes from the past few days. I mean, we talked a lot about like anime yesterday.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think an anime poster would be great.
Yeah, like an anime dog poster.
Right.
It's so funny.
Dog robot.
Yeah.
Dog bot.
Yeah. We also have talked about yesterday's theme was sunny, like warm summer.
Yeah, warm
so
weather.
it could be like a, aspirational sort of thing for those of us who are still in the cold.
Yeah, and I think, these sorts of areas, like working on this, it's a secondary part, so like you can have a lot of fun with humor in there too. Like just finding these little sneak bits of like joy for people to look and enjoy the work that you're making. It's really fun.
Yeah. To answer your question, Carlotta, we are both using iPads, and Meg is specifically tethering to her.
To my laptop. So I have a MacBook Pro, and I'm using AstroPad to put my my screen onto my iPad, so I can still use Photoshop that way, which is a game changer. And you're using Photoshop Sketch?
I'm using Adobe Sketch, which is like a drawing app for iPad. Oh, yes, here's my dog on the screen.
Oh, nice. And I'm so excited to see what you come up with for it.
Yeah, Jan is saying, is talking about the entry from yesterday. But don't, never fear, there is actually no entry. There's no challenge today. It's just a portfolio review. So if you have work that you've made already and want us to check out, just submit it in the portfolio review tab.
Although if you still want to make art, it's always a good time to just hang out with us and make some cool things. So right now I'm just kind of bouncing back and forth between the image. This is where like a lot of the fun part happens for me, where I can take those textures and the lines and just kind of change them a bit. It feels so different. Like I'm so used to working with traditional media and using black and white, but knowing that the image is actually going to be so colorful, it invites a lot of mystery into the process for me. And I think the more I've grown as an illustrator, the more I realize that having exploration and play and just not being fully knowing exactly where it's going to go leads to some really cool happy accidents that way.
Yeah. And to answer your question, Rachel, we will only be doing the portfolio review today, so there is no challenge. But like Meg mentioned, you're always welcome to
always make art.
Do your own challenge, yeah.
Oh, I see a question from Samuel about AstroPad. The question is if it lags a little bit from computer to tablet, and it does sometimes. I've found it lags when I don't plug it in to the tablet. If you just use the Wi-Fi connection, it'll be more pixelated, and sometimes things take a second longer. My MacBook is a couple years old, so it's not brand new, but it seems to work pretty well. Sometimes it'll just have some like artifacts for a second, and then it'll snap back into place.
Yeah. Actually, there's a really interesting question from Jose about if clients contact you directly, or do you look for them, and like what's your process like?
Yeah, Jose, that's a great question. It's kind of a mix for me. I know a lot of people who go and they mostly get contacted for work themselves by clients, but for me, it's kind of a mix between reaching out to people who are doing interesting things and them sometimes finding me. Like social media is a really great avenue for that. But I always like seeing what's out there because, there's a lot of cool things people are making and you don't always know. And sometimes it's just reaching out to them and saying like, I really like your work and it'd be really awesome to work together. It might not be a good fit, but it can't hurt to try. So I always am trying to just reach out and make those connections myself because a lot of times it's only a phone call or an email away and it's not too hard. It's scary at first, but you can do it.
Yeah. And Maria also has a really interesting question about the bar at the bottom with the colors and...
Oh, the bar on my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's actually my my actions in Photoshop. I built a list. I took a day and thought about all the things that I do really repetitively, and I used the Photoshop actions to create a list of those. So it's color-coded by kind of similar sorts of tools that I use. So right here I have like fill foreground, fill background, and then I have edit fade, because a lot of times I might throw, say, like a texture and a pattern, or I might like fill a color and then play with fade options to dial that back a bit and have it blend in differently. I have options like changing things from RGB to CMYK mode, option for resizing for web so that I can keep all of my website images the same width. Things like being able to go between 2 tabs at the same time, like so, and consolidating tabs. So these are all just actions that I use to simplify things a little bit better. And the nice thing is in the flyout palette or menu, there's the option for button mode, and that's why it's actually in these simple buttons. Otherwise, you get a list and it usually like shows you each step of the action. So this is really handy because I just moved it down to the bottom of my image or my interface, and it makes things so much easier that I can just be like, oh, okay, I want to fill the foreground. I don't have to do a key command to do that.
Yeah, and I'm sure it saves you so much time.
It really does. I didn't think, I put it off for a while thinking it wasn't really going to be that big of a deal, but then I just realized there's so many little things I'm doing every day that I don't have to do every single thing one-off that way.
I'm curious to hear if any of you also use actions. Let us know in the chat if you also have any similar workarounds.
Yeah, I always love learning that sort of thing too. So
yeah.
So right now I'm just kind of knocking out some of those outlines that I drew. And I think I was saying before, like, this technically isn't super necessary. Like, in theory, you could keep those lines, or I could have redrawn this to just build these shapes in Photoshop and not necessarily gone this way. But I just actually really like when I zoom in, I can kind of see the texture of my line better. It feels just a tiny bit more organic to me. And I kind of find it fun to just see it transform in that way. I'm probably the only one who will notice it, but it makes me happy. So I'm like, I'll stick with it. So. Yeah.
We're getting some really good questions today about the tablet products. And a question from Jamie, from Meg, is like what your opinion is basically on using Wacom products versus the iPad Pro.
That's a great question. I feel like I have a lot of good experience in that because I've actually bought a few of them over the years to experiment. I started out with, I don't remember was it the Graphire, the Wacom Graphire they had like way back in the day?
I don't know.
It was like, when I was in high school they had it, and it was like I think it's the cheaper version of the tablets now. And that worked really well, but I used it mostly for coloring. Then I stepped up to an Intuos, and again, that was like better for pressure sensitivity, but the coloring worked better for me. I knew some people who were just amazing at drawing with it, but I could never get around like the not being able to see your work. So then I wound up getting, there's a brand called Unova, I think. It's like YIYNOVA. They had like a tablet monitor, and it was, I think, like $600, and it was really great. I could actually see what I was doing. I was like, oh, drawing is fun now, basically.
Yeah.
And I used that for a good long time. It was probably about like 19 inches or so. But then I wanted something a little bit more portable, so I had switched to the Wacom, the Cintiq Companion. And that one was nice, but it was it ran in Windows, and I tend to like Mac a little bit better. So anyway, long story short, I switched to an iMac or iPad Pro like about 2 years ago, and I'm really happy with it. I think the Wacom brand is really great, and they do a lot of really interesting technology, but there's a lot of competitors out there now too. So I think in the next few years, that's probably all going to just simplify. But like the iPad Pro's been really great. I love working with the pencil. It's just the most comfortable thing I've ever worked with. The styluses for Wacom tend to be like thicker, and it just felt like a little clunkier for me. And this, I don't think about it. My hand doesn't really cramp up in the same way. So yeah, it's an investment, but I think it's worth it if you can.
Yeah, I'm noticing that you have a lot of really custom parts of your setup. Like you have your glove that you talked about in day one. You also have like a little spongy thing.
Oh yeah, this is actually like I think it was off of like a ballpoint pen.
Oh, nice.
So it's just like a little rubber sort of thing to kind of make it a little easier to grasp.
Yeah.
And then I also have a stand to help it that folds out in different directions. And a lot of that's just like, I think ergonomics are actually really important for illustrators. we're working all the time and you're doing a lot of repetitive motions, a lot of my process overall has been like just evolving over time so that I don't constantly just like kill my wrist or my elbow, and just like taking stretches and like letting your eyes relax. Yeah. So like how to be a better human for yourself.
Yeah.
So you're not angry later at yourself.
Hopefully that answered your question, Jamie.
Yeah.
Let us know if you have more questions about setup. Ooh, Ashley asks if you illustrated any of the Lumberjane graphic novels.
Oh, I didn't, but I forget the artist. They're really cute though.
Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah. I recently read, I think, the first like volume, just like devoured it
It's so good, yeah.
in one go. Yeah.
I think that's just one artist who works on it, right? Or is that one of those that has like a series of artists?
I Wikipedia'd it. I think there's like a bunch of artists.
Is there? Oh, okay.
But I could be wrong. Yeah. If anyone knows, definitely let us know, or feel free to correct me on that.
Yeah, I'm always looking for really good comics. I don't have as much time to read them as I want to anymore, but it's just so inspiring to see how people treat storytelling across comics.
Yeah. Let us know where all of you are at basic as well. We're in San Francisco right now. So it's like afternoon for us, but I'm really curious to see where everyone else is tuning in.
We had a lot of international viewers the other days.
And also let us know if it's warm where you are. Like, what is it? Is it summer?
having
Is
to
it
bundle
winter? Yeah.
It's actually like super sunny and nice here. I'm from Portland, Oregon originally, so it's always it's lush and beautiful, but it's a mix between like it's really pretty and oh, it's pouring again. So
Yeah, not this again.
it's the trade-off, but it's still such a livable and lush city, so I love it. So what are you drawing for your posters?
Oh, so I was inspired by your derpy French bulldog guy.
Yeah.
And so I've decided to draw these grumpy cats.
Cool.
And they really just wish they were part of this, but
Nice.
they're super jealous or envious. Yeah.
Scowling. I feel like that could also be like fun for like a luxury, like a joke for like luxury perfume, right? Or something like that. Like these really grumpy cats who are just like, I'm too good for you.
Yeah.
That's good. Cats are one of those things that I'm not like. That's not my strong suit for drawing. I love drawing wild cats, but house cats are weirdly challenging to me. I think I like big long noses for dogs and things. So cats, their faces are so precise.
Hey everyone! Ooh, lots of really interesting responses.
Oh wow, Moscow.
Yeah, shout out to Carlotta in the Netherlands, Canada, Russia, Ecuador, Denmark. That's pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah, I'm jealous. I'm gonna travel to all those places.
Same.
Okay, so I think I'm trying to decide if I want to add like any more pattern. Like I gave her shirt like this polka dot pattern, and it's got like if I take her line layer off, you can kind of see. Let's see. It's got like this red underneath it. I know it's always really strange in its own way to just take the line off.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because you can also see like I tend to color like either I use the lasso tool or I'm using the brush, and a lot of times like it's not the most precise because it can hide pretty well underneath the line work.
Just to clarify, Radhika, we are working on the same drawing. This is Meg's illustration, and I am jumping in today, day 3, to do like a quick little tiny assist in the corner. So as you can see, actually I'm using Adobe Sketch, and this is on my iPad, and Meg is using Photoshop. But she basically just sent me a flat PNG of her illustration, and I've uploaded it as a transparent image layer, which you can do in Sketch. It's really easy. Just go to Add, and then do Image instead of Sketch. And then I dialed down the transparency so I can kind of focus on my piece, but still know what the dimensions are. And then I'm just sketching it in now.
Yeah, because that's still the same, like DPI for it too. The resolution's the same. So by the end of it, we should just be able to paste it back in and it'll look great.
Yeah, this is cool. I mean, I don't really do a lot of collabs with people on the same file. at the same time.
I know that at the same time is really interesting.
So this is really cool. I mean, I can also something about Sketches. You can like export it as a PSD.
Oh,
and then,
that's great.
So I can send you it, and then you can just like take the layers.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because then if I want to, I can always add like extra shapes and textures into it later too.
Yeah. And Jan, I don't work for Adobe. I am a host.
Yeah, you're a special guest.
I'm a special guest as well. I'm an illustrator. I've been on the stream a few times as well, and it's always like super fun to be back. Yeah. But I really like Adobe products. I'm going to use them like every day. So.
Well, it seems like I really like that Adobe's bringing in people from outside as well who are working professionals themselves. It's always fun to kind of learn from each other too, because our processes are similar but also really different from each other. So just kind of seeing like, oh, there's more ways to do things and just watch someone else work. It's hard not to just like watch you work instead of working myself.
Everyone's saying super cool, awesome, wow, marvelous, fantastic, incredible. Nice. Yes.
Is anyone working on any fun things right now?
Yeah, there's a question earlier in the chat is like, what are your favorite projects to work on?
Oh.
Just curious.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I really like doing a lot of different things. I really love, like over the last couple of years, I've been doing more with story. And so picture books have been really fun to work on for that because it's a very limited sort of space. You only have like, maybe 24 to 32 pages to tell a story, and you have to lead the viewer through and surprise them from page to page. So I really like doing that. I've worked with a friend of mine on some animation before, and that's like so magic to me. It's like I don't have the patience to animate myself, but I really love it as a process. So things like that are really fun. But I also do a lot of experimenting and doing product design myself. Part of the giveaway was that paper doll kit.
Yeah.
And every year I do like a craft fair, and a lot of times I'm coming up with a theme and then a project and think of like, what sort of things can I make? So in addition to this, I made bandanas that were screen printed and enamel pins, and it's just really fun to see how your work can kind of transform across other surfaces that way.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've had that too, like just even seeing your work at a different scale, like you've had things been blown up large and for larger companies and for yourself. It just is really fun to see the work grow.
Yeah. And also actually relevant to our convo about Meg's awesome paper doll kit. Our giveaway is coming up in just a minute. So make sure to be active in the chat, get some hype going on. Our giveaway today involves a lot of different items. So it involves Meg's wonderful gift here. It's really fun. And there's like all these little like cute components in the back. And then we've got 3 prints from Christine, Rob, Zilla, and Jing. And then we also have these 2 Adobe Illustrator little swag pieces.
Nice.
We've got the enamel pin and the sticker. I'm personally very jealous of whoever wins the pin.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Although I feel like for me it would have to be Photoshop.
Yeah, hype. Make sure to get in your entries, your chat submissions within the next like 10 seconds. And we'll see who the winner is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see a question from Rachel about my pins as well. Those are currently being sold on my website, so it's meghunt.com. I do sometimes sell my art as prints. Currently, it's been taken down, but in the next couple of weeks, I think I'll be posting them back up again, so just stay tuned.
Yeah. All right, our giveaway is over now. So we will see who gets to win this awesome kit. There's so many goodies here.
I know.
Yeah.
I think I have this poster of Jing's, and it's so good.
I know, it's so clever. It's so playful. Yeah, so we'll definitely also, give a shout out to all of Meg's links at the end, but I'm noticing some people in the chat are talking about wanting a copy of Meg's dolls and prints, so you can find that stuff on her portfolio website, meghunt.com.
Yeah, my plan is by the end of April, all of the things that I've made will be up there again for people. It's always tricky, like selling things and then making your own work too. Like, it's a full-time job.
For sure,
It's
yeah.
multiple full-time jobs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to get those things to people. Let's see. I think I'm trying to decide, this Pomeranian is really cute at this color. I kind of want to give it like a little bit of a white scruff. A friend of mine has an old Pomeranian and it just makes it very cute, like a little wizened old man face.
Oh, yeah. Also, there's a lot of love for this Pomeranian. People are really excited that it's coming back.
There's just something about drawing like really cute, really angry things. I kind of love it.
Yeah. Yes, Christopher Mitchell, thanks for that. It is meghunt.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all one word, no dashes or anything like that.
Yes.
Okay. And I think for this too, I started playing around, I think yesterday I was trying to find them and I downloaded them again. I really have been having a lot of fun with these Impressionist brushes that Kyle Webster put out. So they do this really nice, taking a color and then just like bring related values of that color and like different tonalities of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Signac, I think it's a Signac 2 I've been using a lot. So I can kind of pull, oops, that's not quite right. I'm going to eyedrop the color of the Pomeranian and I'm just going to start coloring on it with lock transparency. You can kind of see it just starts building up this really nice texture of the yellows and the reds together. So it just starts building up a little bit more of a fur texture to it, which is really cute.
Yeah.
And then I can keep eyedropping it and then get related colors. Give them a little bit of a rosier face. And I might like put in a lot of this texture and then go back in with the flat brush so that I can pull it back together that way.
There's an interesting convo about socks going on right now.
Socks?
Yeah. I personally feel like you can never go wrong with too many socks, and I don't feel like people really look at your socks that much.
Unless you have like really brightly colored socks and you want people to be staring at your ankles.
Yeah, unless it's like a accent piece.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's some good ones out there.
yeah. All right. So we have our giveaway winner.
Ooh.
Congratulations to Margarita Kutina. You have won such a
All the
wonderful,
things.
yeah, all the things, all the art things. You've won all these prints.
Well, congrats, Margarita.
And you've also gotten an amazing bonus, these paper dolls. So fun. There's 4, I believe.
Yeah, there are 4 different sheets, and then I think there's about 24 of Brad's, so you can make basically 2 dolls with it.
Yeah. And then these 2, this pin and this sticker from Adobe Illustrator.
So much swag.
Yeah, so much swag.
Yeah, I love some swag.
Yeah. This Robzilla poster is very swagalicious.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love Mr. T.
Yeah. Rachel says, "Congrats, you lucky dog." It is Year of the Dog. Happy Chinese
right.
Lunar New Year to those who celebrate. So yeah.
Did you do anything fun for Lunar New Year?
Yeah, I actually went back to China.
Oh, wow.
I spent it with my family. It was really fun. In China, the workplace culture is, it's like Chinese New Year is kind of like Christmas or New Year's, so people have that time off.
They just take full advantage of it, basically.
Yeah, yeah. The Adobe Daily Creative Challenge is after today's session that ends at, it begins at 6 p.m. Pacific time.
Yeah.
So translated to your time zone. And it will be led by Kathleen. So definitely tune in and draw along. So I think because I'm a little short on time, the way that I'm approaching this bonus is I'm just going to do a really limited color palette.
That sounds great,
I'll probably
actually.
just do like 2 or 3 colors.
Yeah, I think keeping it limited will be good too because that's kind of akin to like poster design, and also it won't pull too much focus away from everything else because it is a
Totally.
pretty busy image anyway.
Yeah. Oh, shout out. Jamie just said that he looked at Margarita's Behance portfolio. She's a great artist.
Oh,
so
awesome.
everyone, go check out Margarita's portfolio.
Yeah, what does everyone in the chat do? Are you all illustrators, or do you like to experiment and do other things?
Yes, Paul. Unfortunately, the giveaway just occurred. But we will have the last giveaway of the week happening in about 2 hours. Nice. So
there's still time.
There's still time. There's still time to win these awesome prizes. So tune in then if you are so inclined. And we also are doing a portfolio review, 2 portfolio reviews at the end of the session. So if you want Meg to review your portfolio, make sure to submit it within the next 50 or so minutes. There's like a countdown on that side of the screen. And you can find more info in the submission link in the portfolio review tab, which is right next to the chat.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to see the different portfolios.
Yeah. I think really important to what's in a portfolio is not only the actual pieces, but how you present it. So like the design of a portfolio, if you do certain types of work, maybe if you're like an animator, the way that you design your portfolio will be different than if you're like only making static images. So I'm seeing a lot of really diverse like professions and focuses in the chat. There's like animators, designers, musicians. I'm so excited to see what those portfolios look like.
Yeah, I would be curious for anyone who's not an illustrator who's in the chat, how is presenting a portfolio for you? I know for animators a lot of times like you need a demo reel so you can kind of like curate the best parts of it, and also just thinking of like how other aspects of a portfolio can be impactful. So in that case, like a lot of times music gets used, or like you might have an intro and new material in that way. Same for like illustrators, like you have to think of like how do you design for that, like what kind of typeface choices and colors and the things you write about your work and the context you bring to it.
Totally, yeah.
It's all important. That said, it can also be like a really good work in progress, so you don't have to feel like it has to be perfect, but I think as long as you come from it with a genuine perspective of who you are and what you're all about, then it usually works out pretty well.
Jan says, I'm an artist turned procrastinator. It's a terrible affliction. That's funny
you.
because I feel like I'm a procrastinator turned artist.
Really?
Yeah.
Procrastination's no joke. It's so easy to get distracted by things and feel like you have to get to the perfect answer before you can start. But a lot of times it's just like getting started is half the battle.
Yeah. Actually, there's something that really has stuck with me this whole week from this Adobe live stream experience. And I wanted to share it with everyone. We were getting dinner with all of the artists on Tuesday night, and I was talking to Timmy and some other folks. Timmy was in the last stream, the one that just happened like 40 minutes ago. We were talking about like not giving up and how like so much of succeeding in this like creative space is just like being the last person standing, and if you can help it, like obviously there's valid reasons to not do stuff if
yeah, you can always pivot it in a new direction, but if you really want it, I think that's really good to know that like you have to be persistent. It just takes time, and like there's so many other people out there that we're all looking at new people and new things, so just reminding people you exist is sometimes half the fight.
Yeah. And then so I should probably clarify, I'm not trying to shame anyone who like there's definitely super valid reasons to like do anything. So not saying there's only like one right way to do something.
Oh no,
but
totally.
Yeah, we were just talking about like persistence and like grit. And then he said the one who holds their breath the longest wins.
Oh yeah.
I told you that yesterday.
Right.
It's just really stuck with me. Like I just wanted to share it because I thought it was so simple and really kind of profound.
Yeah.
Just because it's something that we all have done probably as kids, with our friends, like holding your breath contest.
Well, and I think also like a big thing is just like learning that one of the biggest things I had heard from someone like earlier in my career is just that so much of this is like a marathon and not like a sprint. Like we're always worried about just chasing the next thing, that we kind of forget about all the good things that we've accomplished and like the things we've learned and grown with all like through the way. And if you're always like kind of chasing it like a shark, then sometimes you might just burn out and get frustrated and not realize what you were really trying to accomplish along the way. So, I think it's really good to be persistent, but also know that it's okay if things get slow or you need to take a break from things. And,
Yeah, totally.
Explore those other passions in your life too, because I feel like that makes you a stronger creative too, because you bring lived experience into it and you can kind of share that in the work that you make. Having worrying less about like style and more thinking about like the voice and what sets you apart and what makes you an interesting human being, period, I think is really important.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know like what your thoughts on are that. Radhika says persistence and really good lungs. Which is, yes, definitely.
Yeah. Also, like, how do you deal with like creative blocks or procrastination? I think that's always a really important thing to think about.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure we can all learn from each other that way.
Yeah, I really liked what you were saying yesterday. We had like a kind of a real talk about how like on social media, it's easy to just look at the highlights of someone's work and think like that's all there is to it. But
yeah, that was another bit of advice I got, where it's basically don't compare your insides to everyone else's outsides, because that everyone's going through a lot of stages of process to make the things that they are. And sometimes from the surface, it can look amazing and great and effortless, but it probably also took a lot of work and you're on your own unique path. So just knowing that you can learn and grow from people, but don't get too intimidated by it either. I think that's really important.
Totally. There's a really interesting chat going on about eating and cooking.
I love eating and cooking.
Peanuts. Yeah.
Peanuts? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's intriguing.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't think I've cooked with peanuts in dishes, but I don't think I've made it where that's like the main focus.
Yeah, me neither.
I made this really great like Afghan peanut stew a while back, and it was just like so hearty, like in the wintertime especially. So right now I'm just kind of drawing into my bread on a similar food theme. I'm just adding in a little bit more of like bake shapes, and part of the drawing I also took the color of the main bread layer and just started drawing into the shadowy textures that I had so that I could kind of highlight it and make it feel a little bit more of a shine going on.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so you can kind of see like where it's going over time that way.
Right. How do you know when is like too much?
Oh,
like when to stop?
It's always tricky. Like sometimes I do like overwork things in that way. Thankfully with Photoshop you can undo a lot.
Yeah, totally.
Sometimes I'll keep save states of things to see how they can compare. I don't do it a lot, but over this week I've been taking those screenshots of the pieces to kind of see like where it's going. And that kind of helps me too, because especially since I use a lot of like the hue saturation sliders, that and like selective color, like you could just spend forever just moving sliders around and being like, this color looks good or this color looks good. And I think usually the piece just kind of feels right when I get to like a stopping point. But it takes a long time, and like sometimes the last 2 or 3 hours of the piece, it feels almost done, but it's not quite done, and it's hard to say. I guess it's just like I can feel it in my head and in my bones.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like it's hard to know when to like pause and not overdo it. So it's really good to hear your perspective.
I think because I start from a point where it's kind of overworked with the black and white drawing, and then I'm like pushing it back into place, like it feels very crazy, and then I rein it in.
I see.
So I think it's a little easier than if you're going from just a blank image and then building off of it. I think that I'd have that issue more.
Yeah.
It's kind of meditative after a while, I think, too. Like, it's really nice coloring and building off this. Like, you kind of get into the zone a bit. I don't know if you ever have that, like, just a sense of flow when you're working.
Totally. I think flow is real. I always say the flow was strong today.
Nice.
If it indeed was. Or if it wasn't, then I'm like, it was not strong today. Yeah. That's also another thing that we've talked about a lot. So Meg actually used to be my mentor and teacher a few years ago. And we've just talked about like some days are just good drawing days and some days are you're just not as on, and like it's just about accepting that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's hard. It's always hard to tell like what makes a good drawing day and what makes a like less good one. Sometimes it's just like, you know, you can't quite get it and it's in your head, but your hands aren't cooperating. So it's a little frustrating, but I think if you're just okay with that and can figure out other aspects of your practice to build off of, that can help a lot too. I try to build in like extra sorts of work for myself. So writing is really helpful for me for generating ideas, and I can be much faster with words than I am with images, so that can be really helpful. Doing like admin days are also really important. They're not fun, but you know, just like dealing with paperwork and all that stuff. And just like finding downtime to just go and explore, like feel okay with not working like 24/7 in that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. What do all of you do to just decompress and not be all about illustration or work, you know, 24/7? Like, what do you do? Because I think something else we've talked about is just like being a person with like other things going on in life. Then you can like take inspiration from that.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's important. I feel like sometimes within illustration as a culture, like we're kind of taught that like hustling is like this hugely valuable thing, and it is valuable to like work hard, but you also don't want to sacrifice all the other aspects of yourself as a person.
Totally.
It just makes me more well-rounded. So yeah, I'd be curious what you're all what you do to, you know, keep yourself inspired or just decompress in that way too.
Carlotta says skateboarding.
Nice.
Anna says sleep. I feel that. Sleep is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always try to get 8 hours. Or if I get less than that, I'll try to figure out some way to take a nap.
It's important. I mean, I used to be like a massive insomniac, and then I got better about it. Like now I can't pull all-nighters anymore. It just won't work. The work suffers, I think, a lot of times anyway if you do that. And plus, you can dream. Dreams are fun.
Yeah, dreams are awesome. Actually, my friend was just trying to teach me how to do lucid dreaming.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's when you are aware that you're in a dream.
You're like controlling the dream in a way, right?
You're like aware that you're in a dream, but to the point where you don't wake yourself up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I couldn't do it. It was really hard.
It seems like it's got to be like a very specific knack to build over time.
Yeah, the trick to that one was we woke up at 5 a.m. and
too early for me.
Yeah, the trick is to wake up really early so you're still really sleepy, so it's not hard to go back to sleep.
Yeah, it's like that, was it hypnagogic state, I think? Like the in-between.
Yeah. Seeing a lot of really interesting responses. Cooking, doing makeup, eating, movies, stories, friends, going to museums.
I love going to
See you later,
museums, too.
Christopher.
See you.
Yeah. Tim, one of our wonderful mods, says that lucid dreaming wakes best when you wake up in the middle of the night and go back to bed, which, yeah, I think that's the one of the tricks that we were trying to do.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, it did not work for me, but yes.
I keep meaning to like record my dreams too. Like a friend of mine a couple years ago, like I think she said like the trick was like every day you had to write in it, even if it was just like I don't remember what I dreamt, or like I remember 2 seconds of a dream or something like that.
Do you remember what you dreamt about last night?
No, unfortunately.
I had a totally crazy dream last night, but
Yeah?
I forgot what it was. Yeah. What have you guys been dreaming about? Maybe share some of that. Yeah. In the chat, I'm curious.
I had a very strange dream when I was working on the mural I was working on last week. I was doing a really large mural in a bar, and it started impacting my dreams. So I was dreaming about having to go and find like primer at this very avant-garde sort of biotech company.
Ooh, okay.
And then there was like gunfire and a shootout. It was very strange. I was just like, this is just art making. What's happening? So I think I was just stressed about making my deadline.
Oh, I see. I do
brains
have
are
this.
funny.
I do have that recurring dream that I'm in high school again,
Oh, yeah.
and there's a test, and I didn't study for it.
I've had that with college.
Kind of embarrassing dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always convinced I have a dream where it's like, I think I'm still in college and I just never went to the class at all, and finals are that day, and it's like, oh God.
Yeah. Oh, Valeria says, do you feel like you have a special place to be creative and another place to be productive?
That's a good question. I think a lot of times I find creativity when I go out like hiking on walks, because a lot of times you're not looking at a screen, you're not getting distracted by things, and I can just like let my brain reset around all like the green in nature. I find that I'm very productive at my studio in Portland. I work with about 18 or so other designers, creatives, and illustrators, and they're always like super inspiring in different ways. So having other people around to kind of help share and like motivate you has been really good. I think I was talking about that yesterday too. It's like a friend of mine, we do like a Google Hangout and just like screen share the whole time. Even though we're doing very different things, it's just nice to see someone else working in the background.
Simone says sometimes he dreams about the work he's doing and then has to wake up to do it.
Your brain's just like planning. It's like, this will happen.
Yeah, I definitely get that sometimes. I've just been too anxious about, waking up early the next day to do a project, and so I'll just be like, you know what? I'm just thinking about it anyway. So
yeah, your brain's just kind of puzzling it out.
Might as well just do it right now. Yeah.
I think that used to happen to me a lot, especially when I was teaching. The day before or the morning of a class, I would have because I used to teach at the university level with illustrators, and that. A lot of times I would be still puzzling out in my head what like a lecture would be like, or what a student, like what we could talk about their process on their project.
Yeah.
And so I'd be always so afraid that I'd oversleep and miss class. And it's like, that'd be like the worst thing. So your teacher just rolls in like 2 hours like, oops, I overslept.
Yeah, I feel like that might be me.
I mean, sleep's just so good.
Autumn actually makes an interesting point about working from home. She feels hurting the creative process, which I kind of agreed to an extent. Like I worked from home for a long time before getting a shared art studio space with 3 of my friends.
Yeah.
And I think there's just some days where it's like better to work with others, and for me, and some days where I need.
I mean, I think it varies on the person, because I have some friends who it's like their whole studio is in their home and they love it because they can just roll out of bed and wear pajamas all day and just like get the day started. I think having like some separation's kind of helpful, just because otherwise you can just get sucked into the work 24/7.
Totally.
I have some friends who like live in studio apartments, and so then their workspace is their home space up all the time. So even just like finding like a coffee shop where you don't mind working, especially if it has like good natural lighting, and just hearing other people can be kind of helpful.
Yeah, that's actually the cool thing about. I mean, I have started taking an iPad out a lot, just because it's hard to, when we're working on like tablet, like a Cintiq or something, it's hard to take that out to a coffee shop. Just there's so many plugs. But with an iPad, it's a lot easier to bring it with you.
Yeah, as long as you remember to charge it, it's good.
Yeah, and I've literally done like full like weeks worth of work on like an iPad, like in Adobe Sketch or something. So it's kind of crazy how.
Yeah, I was always a little wary of it. I remember a couple years ago, one of my former students, when she was doing her thesis project, she basically did most of like, I think it was like a choose your own adventure graphic novel, but she did it all on her iPad. Oh, cool. And it looks so painterly and so lush. I was like, ooh, you can do things that way. That's really cool. But just, yeah, I agree. Having that ability to just go out and about and just, I think working on site in places can just help change your perspective a little bit. It also helps just hearing other people who are milling about, like that little bit of white noise can sometimes just like shut your brain off and just like be like, okay, it's time to get to work. So
yeah, that's kind of why I like listening to podcasts and stuff. So I just feel like I'm in a conversation with other people.
Yeah. Ooh, I just made this yellow stripe down her pants, and it's like kind of too electric, but I kind of love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually used to find, I think there's like a website where you can play like ambient noises. And so one of them was like coffee shop, and you could just turn it on and choose like how busy of a coffee shop you want it to be and how much, like if you want to put music over it, it could overlay on top of that too. So it's just like, oh, that's my mobile studio when I'm at home. But I think podcasts are such a great way to bring that into just having other people talking about a subject lets you learn things, and then also it's just like you feel like you're working with a team in a way.
Have you ever gone to like a park or something, like a non-traditional?
I have sometimes. I feel like sometimes it's hard with like the iPad sort of setup, just like the shine and glare that way. But if there's like a nice bench or something or a picnic table, that's a really good way to go.
Yeah, totally. And for those who are just joining us now, just a quick reminder, we have our portfolio reviews coming up in about 30 minutes. So make sure to get your portfolios submitted if you want us to review them. You can find all this info in the portfolio review tab, which is right next to chat.
Just listening to the sound of my pencil just color.
Yeah. Actually, there's music in the
good.
channel. Valeria says, I usually like to work in total silence. I'm a weirdo.
Oh, I have some friends who do that. Like, especially, it kind of depends. Like, sometimes I love having music, and sometimes it's a little too much, and sometimes I need dead silence. Podcasts don't really work for me if I'm trying to write or come up with concepts a lot of times because my brain needs to like solve problems more. But when I'm drawing, then I can do podcasts really easily. And inking and drawing things, it's usually like I had the idea. So I think it just kind of varies. But I don't think you're a weirdo for working in silence.
I don't think you're a weirdo.
You just have focus.
Yeah, that actually leads me to a question that I have is what music or audio do you all like to listen to when you work? Like what works for you?
Yeah, for me, I have pretty eclectic tastes, but I feel like I've been listening to a lot of like more electronic music. A friend of mine turned me on to, I think his name is like Todd Terje or something. It's like Terje. And it's like very poppy, like kind of reminds me of like Stereolab and things like that, where it's like instrumental but really fun and kind of I feel like I'm a spy while working on art. So
Cool.
do you have any favorite music when you're working, or?
Yeah, I've been shifting a lot. I really like listening to very like dreamy pop. It's a lot of Churches. You've heard of them?
Oh yeah.
It's Churches with a V, or Borns. It's the O in Borns has like a dash through it.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
cool.
It's really like just dreamy stuff.
I think on like the dreamy poppier side, there's like this Japanese band I think called Lullatone.
I love Lullatone.
It's like the cutest music in the world, and everything is like all the titles are like a springtime with like leaves falling, or things like that.
My favorite Lullatone song is called literally All Aboard Korean Airlines Flight 747
I love that one. That's really
to Seoul. Yeah.
It's so good. But yeah, that I feel like that just if I'm in a bad mood, I play that. I'm like, I can't be mad at this. This is too cute.
Yeah. I can literally point to projects in my portfolio where I'm like, this project was powered by Lullatone.
Nice.
Because the output that it was so like just happy.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think that's also like a really fun kind of thought too. It's just like if you listen to music or you listen to podcasts, that can affect the way you draw or like the subjects.
Yeah. I see that Valeria listens to podcasts like Creative Pep Talk.
Oh, that's a good one.
Things about storytelling. Yeah. I used to like to listen to this podcast called Your Dreams, My Nightmares.
Oh, yeah, that was
Sam Weber.
Sam Weber, yeah.
Yeah.
Does he still do that one?
He hasn't posted anything new.
Okay, that's too bad. But he did it for a while, so.
Yeah, there's quite a library of past episodes to listen to. So I really like that one.
I think there's been, I want to see more illustrators make podcasts. I've been seeing a couple of them, but I haven't gotten to listen to them yet. But it's just such an interesting field, and hearing like other people talk is really fun.
Yeah. Shout out to Val, who says She's married to Star Wars. Does that count? Let us know if you're a Star Wars fan. I am sort of a Star Wars fan. I recently saw the 7th and 8th movies.
Nice. I still haven't seen the most recent one. I need to, but I'm unfortunately, I love movies, but I'm so slow to get to them.
Same, yeah, same.
It's just, I need to be in the right headspace to go and see a movie.
Do you like watching movies in movie theaters, or?
I do. I mean, it's really fun to be like in a group, especially for like a big blockbuster movie.
Right.
But it depends. Like quieter movies, I like being at home too.
Yeah. Do you mind passing me the pencil to your right?
Oh, sure. That one dies.
Yeah, so this is actually a trick that Robzilla taught me, which is if you have so normally when you charge your pencil, you plug it into the socket. But if you're charging your iPad, like you obviously can't do that because there's only one. So he would plug it into his phone.
That's clever.
Which
I
is
would
just
never even think
there.
about that.
Yeah, and then you
good.
can let your, iPad do its thing.
Yeah, that's actually a kind of game changer sort of tip. There's been so many times I'm working on a project and then it's like 5%, and then I have to like pause and get up and get a cup of coffee or something.
Right.
And just like stick it there and plug it.
Yeah. The pencil, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, this is starting to come together. Another question I have for like people in the chat: do you tend to like to work and like start and finish a piece like all in one go? It's really been fun to work on this piece over like 3 days and also like trade things off because I'm so used to just being like, okay, the drawing's done, let's get it finished for a client. I never really think about like checking in on a piece over multiple days. So I'm kind of curious if you like working with like lots of time and pauses, or do you just like to get a piece done and move on to the next one?
Yeah, good questions. I personally like to do it all in one go, but I do notice a lot of benefit when I give myself space between projects. Yeah.
I think having like at least a little bit of downtime before you turn a project in is helpful too, just because like if you work all night on a project and then turn it in, you might just miss something that like is,
yeah, totally.
I've had that a couple times where I've drawn a thing and then somebody will point out, it's like, well, that looks like something else and you don't want it to look like that, so then I have to go and fix it because you're too blind to it in the moment.
Yep, I agree. Autumn says she prefers to finish when she starts, but she's juggling lots of different big projects. So facepalm.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's also just like a lot of people who are working on artistic pursuits and it's not necessarily their full-time job either. And I think that's totally okay too. Like just making time when you can to do some work. Every little bit helps. Like I think a lot of times people worry that they have to be in the perfect right headspace to make art and make something really neat. And it's like, if you keep chipping away at it, you'll eventually come up with something. But if you wait for that perfect time, it may never come either.
Yeah, something that I think I've really learned is like, it makes sense to be in like the right headspace, but if you want to be like a professional, like someone who does it for like a job, then having that creative discipline to just be able to put yourself in the mood for making is like pretty necessary, because otherwise you're like beholden to
like this muse or
something.
something.
Like inspiration. Just so, like kind of hard to...
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, and if, when I was in college, my professor told me, it's like, well, if you find a project uninteresting where you can't get inspired, it's kind of your fault. Like it's your job to find something interesting about the project. So even if it feels like on paper kind of dull, like there's ways to get into it. And if you, especially because I think a lot of it's just like procrastination and fear about starting. So
right.
Once you get to that starting point, then it's usually so much easier. It's just like getting out of your own head.
Dorina says she definitely works with time pauses on a project. Sometimes more or less, it depends on the project. And that definitely makes sense. Yeah. Thanks to Val for the reminder. There's 23 minutes left for the portfolio deadline, so make sure to get those submissions in. Yeah. And I think in about 10 minutes, I'll pass you like whatever I have on my end.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. Yeah, Alice, do you have any like tips for like if you're not particularly feeling a project, like how do you get into that headspace?
Yeah, good question.
Throwing in tricky questions.
Hard to really say. Could be many things. I guess I would ask myself like why fundamentally I'm not into it. Like if it's if it's really unaligned with my values, then maybe there's like a larger question I should be asking myself about if I should be working on this or not. Like maybe if it's my gut saying like evaluate like what this is for really. But if it's just more like the project is fine, I'm just for some reason there's some issues that are hard to work through, I'll just try my best to be really like direct with the other person.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I feel like sometimes it can be a variety of factors too. It could be that you don't have enough information to go on for the project, or maybe it takes a lot of research and you need to like you might be feeling like you need to do a little bit more work to get to that point. Everyone is different, obviously, so.
Yeah. I'm wondering if any of you have any like tips for just getting through creative block, especially on client projects. Ryan asks, have you ever dropped a job partway? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't think I've actually completely dropped a project partway. I have sometimes like bid for projects and had them fall through because they were looking for something different and they didn't fully know at that point. I usually try to get through a project. Like you are able to walk away from things, but I always want to try and like do my best for a client. But I do know like I have to learn to like fight for myself and make sure that like my time is valued and the work that I'm doing, like I have a clear idea of what they want and what I can do. Because if I don't do that, then I usually don't feel as happy about the work.
Yeah.
And I think that's fairly normal too. Like I think everyone feels like every piece that they do will be in their portfolio and it will be perfect and it must be amazing every time.
Yeah.
But I don't think that always happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's pieces I make that like they're fine, but for whatever reason they're not my favorites and they may not go in the portfolio, but as long as the client's happy with them and I feel like I did my best for them, then that's enough for me.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, Jan, for the reminder. Doug and Kathleen are both coming up in about an hour, so definitely stay tuned for that. That will be the last session for this illustration stream this week.
This is so fun.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited to actually go back and watch all the other streams too and learn from them. I just took a quick peek at your cats. They're good.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll have time to finish all of them, but maybe I'll just give you one and you could make it big or something.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I feel like you could just even go like really loose and graphic on like the pink and green one, just like make a couple shapes. And like, I could always bring in like typography into it later if I want to, but you know. But I think that's gonna be really fun to see.
Yeah, maybe it could be more like this cobra, you know?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
This cat is just a dude. Yeah.
Or even just like some scribbles, because he kind of looks like a little afraid in a way. So maybe those cats are just like too tough.
Yeah.
It's like intimidation.
Oh, the cobra is
He's like, ah.
Yeah.
Just put like a teardrop or
The
something.
predator
The anime
has
teardrop.
become the prey.
There you go.
And to answer your questions, Stephen, yes, there are streams planned for next week. The streams next week are about, video and audio production. So, video and audio. So it's a lot of like Adobe Premiere. So definitely tune in if that sounds interesting to you. I definitely will be as well. Jan says, what to do on Friday and on the weekend? I shall fall into a black abyss, devoid of Adobe Live. Well, I hope that, it turns out okay, but if really it becomes a black abyss, there are always replays
That's true.
to watch. But hopefully it doesn't get there. Yeah.
Well, if nothing else, I feel like yesterday we had that really good challenge where you all took that color palette of a piece that I did. So it could be fun to take this piece when it's all done.
Yeah.
Or if one of the other streams like takes some of the palettes from that and then makes some art about it, so that you're not feeling that abyss.
Yeah, you know what you could do? This is what I would do. I'm pretty proactive, I think, about like reaching out to people, and I'm
That's
also
good.
curious about what your thoughts are. But if there was like an illustrator that I really wanted to like both befriend and just grab their ear, like I would just reach out to them. But if I had time, I could just like make something like taking a palette
Oh, and make them
in
like,
a maybe non like creepy way, but
Yeah.
be like, I made this like dog. It was like inspired by this dog you made. So
No, I mean, I think that's actually really sweet. Like, as long as you do it in a way that's respectful and
Yeah.
you're like, I made this because you inspired me.
yeah, I think. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I think the trick with that is always making it clear you're not expecting them to
Yeah.
respond. Like,
Definitely. I mean, I think if I had like all the time in the world, I would love to just like hang out and meet all these people. But we're just unfortunately like super busy all the time, so it can be tricky. So I think just reaching out and even just saying that like you've inspired me, or I really like I learned a thing from you, or like I'm really interested to see what your answer to question like X would be. They may not be able to answer you, but it doesn't hurt to reach out.
for sure, yeah.
Because we're all working and we're all just like heads down, focused on stuff. And I mean, I had a picture book come out called Interstellar Cinderella. It came out in 2014, and my favorite thing has been I get emails around Halloween time of little girls who are dressed up like her.
That's awesome.
And it's just like it's not from artists, but it's just such a sweet thing. It's just like, oh, it made a connection, and you forget when you're doing work all the time.
Yeah.
You're just like trying to just get to the next thing or get better at a skill.
Definitely.
So just like seeing that you make an impact on other people is like so engaging.
Yeah, actually related to an earlier question in the chat about reaching out to clients, if people reach out to you or if you're proactive about that. Have you done anything like that that's like kind of special where you reached out to like maybe a dream client or dream collaborator
definitely.
in a special way?
Yeah, I used to make like self-promotion packets that would be often like a screen print and a packaged up like container, have like a letter written inside. Nothing too like time consuming. I mean, there was the time of packaging it, but not like I'm not writing a 27-page letter about how much I love your work. And like, but trying to tailor something to like what this ideal client does.
Yeah.
And just kind of say that like I really like what you're doing, and making it tailored to them I think is really important. And it doesn't always like have an immediate payoff, but I've gotten work by doing that. And I just think it's really good to be proactive and not feel like you have to wait for the right opportunity to come.
Right.
So yeah, don't get too scared about stuff like that. I mean, most people will be pretty happy about it. Some people may just be too busy, but
Yeah.
I think it's good to just like reach out
Yeah,
and
totally.
get to know your community a little better too that way. And I think I'm gonna have to use this bright yellow again in future pieces. I'm always like scared of it for like printing and things like that, but it's just so fun. Like this pair, I'm very happy with where it's going.
Jan is so poetic. He says,
Yeah?
moments are like flowers. The more you try to grasp them, the more they wither away, like ash in the wind.
That is very poetic.
Yeah.
Got a good way with words there.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just trying to figure out. This is one of the downsides again. If you have like a lot of layers, is remembering what layer you were working on. So I'm just trying to like tighten up some of these things. I don't think I'll be able to get this entirely done over our stream, unfortunately, but I'm going to keep working at it so that when we have our prints, our giveaway winners, you'll get a full color version of this image.
Yeah, so awesome. And I will just start to export my dog that I've been working on.
Okay.
I don't think you can see it yet, but maybe you'll see it in just a few when we merge the two.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of chances to collaborate in general with people?
Sometimes. Never on the same piece. The closest time was I started working with another illustrator who was sort of like helping me out and like assisting me on some stuff last year. And it was actually really cool because I would be like, I've got my underdrawing, which is like the sketch, which is like opacity 10%. And then I started like filling in pieces. Like I really need some like extra stuff over here. Can you like draw trees, but do it in your way? Like, I drew the house, so, draw the trees around it or something. And then we would just like ping pong back and forth. And that was actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I think if you can find the right person to collaborate with, like you can come up with some really awesome things.
Yeah.
It's a little tricky at first because, your whole like visual language is so internalized, I feel like. So like sometimes I've had to like pass things off. Like I'd have an intern once and then you have to kind of like train them in a way to like think the way you think or understand like what you're trying to get across.
Right, yeah.
And I think like doing something like this would be, sometimes I can have someone like flat parts of it, but like this is so like internalized in my head of like how to make this artwork, and so it's a little daunting.
Yeah.
The collaboration's really fun.
Yeah.
There was one point right after I graduated from college, I curated a show in my hometown where it was like 30 different artists and we all collaborated on pieces. So 15 of them I started and mailed them off to people, and it was people all over, I think all over the United States. And then the other 15 sent me pieces that they'd started and I had to finish it. And so it's really fun to see what everyone came up with, and then just the challenge of how to like finish a drawing in a way that felt right. And all the media was really different. But it was really fun.
Actually, one of Radhika's questions about separating out layers in a complex piece of artwork is sort of relevant because especially when you've got two or more people working on the same file, like that's when layer organization is pretty key. Lest you have, a few hundred layers that a new person has to like swim through.
Then it's just like you write an email like, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
My apologies. Yeah.
Frowny face.
Yeah.
No, I agree. That's having a game plan is really good if you're going to collaborate with somebody. I try to figure that out too, like clear communication. When I worked with my friend who we animated together, he needed assets delivered with Photoshop, I think, and he needed to know exactly what brushes I used so that if he was animating like in between stages, he could mimic it in that way. So, once we got a clear understanding of like, this is what you need, then I'll illustrate around that. Because left to my own devices, I just like to make a ton of layers.
Yeah.
Thankfully, most clients, though, if it's for prints, they're usually fairly okay with it. And a lot of times I'm not delivering them a layered image just because I've had it a couple of times where people have taken my image and like internally just adjusted colors, and then it just makes me sad because I'm like, I could totally have done that for you, but it doesn't look quite right. It's like once someone changed like a green to like this really cold blue that at that time I would never use, and it just felt so strange to me because I was like, that's not what it should be. But but I understand. It's like sometimes the needs are different and it can change. But I think with everything, it's like clear communication just makes everything so much easier.
So just as a reminder, we've got a bit under 10 minutes to submit your portfolio, and you can find the link to do so in the tab to the right of the chat tab. And then in just 10 minutes, at the 30-minute mark, like 2:30 PST for us, we'll be checking out a couple of portfolios.
I'm so excited. Yeah. I'm curious if everyone, like, if you have fun making portfolios or do you dread it? I know some people, it's like having to learn how to like edit down your work and like choose the best pieces always feels like kind of like you're choosing your favorite children.
Yeah.
I used to get very upset about that, like taking pieces out of my portfolio, and then after a while I realized it's like, so, you know, they don't always have to resonate in the same way over time. I just recently like overhauled my portfolio and I had to let go of a couple kinds of projects because I realized like I was doing more pattern design work in the past, and I wasn't getting hired for that as much, and I wanted to focus more on story. So even though I loved the things I made with it, I didn't need to have those things in the portfolio anymore. And I feel like that's one of those things that's really important to realize also is just like if you're having a portfolio for clients and you want them to look at your work, like they don't have a lot of time to look at it. So you want to make sure that they really understand right at the get-go what your work is about and what you're interested in, so that they don't have to like keep guessing and get bored or anything like that.
Yeah. Matthew has a really interesting question about if your process for this differs when you know you're going to screen print, since your style does have a lot of that.
Yeah, that's a really great question. Yeah, my process does differ quite a bit for screen printing, because with this I have a lot of gray values in the drawing, and I think you can bring some of that in through like halftoning, but I usually work with more opaque color and use transparent inks to do overprinting. So that usually means I just work with like straight ink, or I'll use layer masks to cut those shapes and just basically layer things out into like 3 or 4 colors that in Photoshop I set them to multiply so I can kind of see how those colors might mimic, although it's not the exact same thing. And I was actually thinking, like I've been experimenting with like this really full color process and then also like a limited color process. So I was kind of thinking this morning, I was like, it would be really interesting to take this and strip it down to like a 3-color print and see what that would look like too.
Yeah.
So I might do that. We'll see.
Yeah. And I also just want to give a shout out and good night to Tim, who's been our lovely moderator.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim, aka Evil Cerise. I will always remember your username.
That's a good name.
Yeah, I will always remember. Thank you. Ooh, Valeria has also a very interesting question about, I feel like my style can change a little between projects. Is that normal, or in fact, is that good?
I think it's good. I mean, I feel like if you stick to exactly the same approach every time, there's not a lot of opportunities to grow over your work, and it can get a little stagnant. I mean, if it shifts like completely between projects, that can be more challenging. I have some friends who they tend to either like really organize their work in their portfolio by different styles, or they might have like a fake name, like a secondary persona. And like that works really well as well. But I think as long as it still feels like your work, then I feel like a little bit of variation is okay, because it's not like you're going to be creating the exact same piece every time. Or you might be hired to do very similar things, but I find it more interesting to let things grow in between, so.
Yeah. Jan says, I'm glad no one knows of my old username. It was totally not kittens with mittens. Nice. There could be
I kind of wish you put mittens on those kittens.
I know, there could be an interesting combo here around like your first screen name.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I'm about to share the piece that I made in Adobe Sketch.
Okay.
And to port it over to your screen. What is the name of your computer? Is it Ouroboros?
No, that's my iPad, so it might be just Meg. I can't. Hang on. I think actually, if I go into, I think I have to pull open. AirDrop. See if that does it.
Kathleen says, I miss Kittens with Mittens. He was so young, so vibrant.
Let's see. Something popping up because I think.
Oh, next MacBook Pro.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. Yeah, this is cool. I've actually not done this before. This is like a first, so.
It's pretty fun. I often use it to go back and forth from my iPad to my laptop. Although I'm pretty certain Creative Cloud does that too, and I just never learned how to do it. So I need to actually use that.
But I think Creative Cloud works like within your Creative Cloud account. Like you can save it to your own library and then pull it from your library from, I saw it was like the first one.
Oh, okay.
From your own library. But it since you're on your own and I'm on my, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Let's see, open in Photoshop.
Yeah, so I've just been
kitty
doodling
cats.
these cats. They're actually on separate layers, but
Okay.
it was a little hard to send it as PSD, so
That's totally fine.
I didn't want it to crash a Wi-Fi. So you can just like cut one out if you want. Yeah.
Let's see if I paste them in.
Kitty kitties.
It's right now as a clipping mask, so she has a tiny shirt. That's always the fun thing. Let's put it up top there.
No. Yeah, I've got a mad kitty.
Gotta love a good mad kitty.
Yeah. And we've got 3 more minutes until the portfolio review. So make sure you submit it. And just as a reminder, you'll have to submit it again, even if you've submitted in the previous sessions, because it kind of starts over. So even if you don't get chosen during this session, if you really want your portfolio review and want another chance, you'll have to submit it again for Doug and Kathleen's session. It doesn't automatically get rolled over.
I saw a comment from Valeria about this being perfect for stickers, which I agree. You need some good cat stickers.
Yeah, I actually made these cat pins.
Nice.
These Mad Kitty cat pins for the Women's March.
Oh, cool.
I was gonna wear one, but I forgot.
That's really cool, though. It's a good idea. Okay, let's see. I think I'm getting to a point where I'm getting really excited. It's funny, like you keep working at something and you stare at like one corner for a while, and then when you zoom out, you're like, ooh, it's actually becoming a thing.
Yeah, totally. So, just curious what all of your first usernames, or maybe most embarrassing chat screen names were.
I think when I was in, what was it? When I had AOL, it was like Ska Baby 718.
Ska Baby 718. Mine was kind of like emo in a weird way. Mine was Queen of Raindrops, but the O was a 0.
Perfect.
It was Queen of Raindrops.
Yeah, that's just such perfect like time period too. Yeah, I feel like I kind of miss that time now because like I think a lot of people still have like usernames with social media, but you know, working as a professional, I feel like you have to have your name.
I was just thinking about this the other day. So my username is Bialicely Everywhere. Just kind of a little plug, by the way, if you want to keep in touch afterwards. You can follow me there. But I was thinking, like, I wish my username was something like Stardust, or just something like kind of different, like purple orange, or something like kind of interesting.
I think you can still do that. I mean, like my friend Angie Wang, like I think all of her taglines are like "Okay, chickadee," basically.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
It works. And my studio mate Maggie, like she goes by Simply Kumquat, basically. So it's like you can still have it.
I love that.
But I never like I got so boring with like all my names being just like it's my name.
Yeah.
I gotta get back into that. I'll just make more personas that way.
Yeah, totally. I could be like Mochi Corporation. Mochi's the name of my dog, so.
Aw.
Yeah.
But really, I want to see like this big ostentatious like painting portrait of like your CEO and founder
Mochi, and it's like right behind me, and I'm like
exactly.
I'm like not the president. I'm like the
right.
like she's
second in command.
She's the boss. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so our portfolio submission deadline is just about over.
Awesome.
So when we have a sec, we're just going to transition to look at the portfolios.
Sure.
But this is also cool too. And then after the portfolios, we're definitely going to, come back to this, visit
kind
it for
recap it for a
last
little bit.
time. Yeah, we could check out the other, like how it started and the progression from day to day, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like each day was kind of a different focus. So yeah. All right, so I'm just going to pull it up really fast. So we've got 2 portfolios to look at today. All right. So this... All right, everyone. Loving
Hi.
it. Loving it so much. Um,
Welcome.
Welcome to Valeria Diaz's space. Just want to make sure you can hear me. So,
But
no,
it's so
I like
comfy
it.
now.
Yeah. Let us
I
know
feel like
in
I'm
the
part of
chat.
a team. So.
Let us know in the chat if, this is really obstructing.
Yeah, if you can't hear us or if it's too echoey, let us know.
If it just sounds like static. And, if your portfolio wasn't chosen in this segment, we also have another one coming up, so don't fret, with Doug and Kathleen in just about half an hour. So just to start off, we're going to check out Valeria's. So this is her Behance page, and we'll start with just like at a glance.
Okay.
These are her overall pieces.
Very cool. So, looking at her work, I see there's a lot of character, and it's really interesting to see like a mix between more realistic color palettes and some really interesting like limited colors. There's a lot of focus on like the female form for these as well, so they're pretty close up, just features on that. So it might be interesting to see how these transform once we like click on some of them and see like what the compositions are actually like.
Yeah, so let's maybe dive in. I'm gonna pick this one, Adulting Fears. Ooh. And we're gonna look through a couple of these.
Okay, sounds good.
So, Adulting Fears, hashtag. It's a project where I had to illustrate fears related to growing up to become an adult.
Nice.
The challenge allows me to face and share them in a more lovely way, and the list goes from the silliest fears to the strongest ones.
Nice. I like that you put the color palette up at the front too, so you get a really good vibe for like what this will be like. And it feels like a nice, like bright but a little bit awkward palette, so it fits real well with like that adulting sort of like trying to get into your own self that way. So.
Yeah, and by awkward you mean like
just like the colors are really bright, like that pale mint color is so like loud but it's not like the most natural of colors. So it feels like it's trying to be mature in some ways, but then like really bright and poppy in others. And so I feel like it's like the perfect mood for kind of walking the tightrope of being an adult. So I really like that.
Yeah. I also like that you really explicitly kind of framed the whole project to start with instead of diving straight into the pieces, because now I have a lot more context into what you were trying to communicate overall.
Yeah, I feel like the context is very easy to pick up from this, like what you're trying to get across and lead you into a specific project. So
yeah, and your list of fears is very relatable. Yes.
Let's see here.
So some of these illustrations.
Cool. So it looks like it's a bit of like an editorial approach for these illustrations, like going through different concepts. And I'm curious, like within this, if we go through, like, will it say what the ideal avenue for this project is? Is it just like images that would live on the web? There's some motion happening within it.
Yeah.
It almost seems like it could be a book as well.
Yeah. This feels really Insta.
Yeah, definitely. The square
vibe.
format feels like it's maybe like a 30-day project or something where you're
Yeah.
trying to like really get into a whole concept. So it's perfect for that. It's simple and direct.
Yeah, these are great.
Yeah.
I also think the way you used a consistent color palette was super smart, but also it seemed like you were really intentional about just like looking at these in a grid. Like it seemed like you were intentional about not repeating the same color twice in a row. And like, even if we kind of zoom out, like you can see like,
Yeah, they fit really well balanced across it.
yeah, like there's like the darker colors and then the lighter colors.
Yeah, I think on that end, so I'm kind of curious that on if you go back up to the green background with the girl, and then you have right below it the nasty woman piece, it looks like. Because those are like the same color, and you did such a good job of like breaking them up and staggering the colors, I'm kind of wondering if those two pieces are meant to go together. Because it almost feels like it could connect from one to the other.
Yeah.
If it's not, you might want to move the order around a little bit. Maybe put the white in the center and then, reverse it a bit.
And you can also, if you put this on Instagram, you can get like extra mileage out of both of them by like, if this girl, the woman is your main image, you could have this one be like just the swipe.
Oh
when
yeah,
you swipe next.
that's a good idea too.
Or you can like tile them so you see the secondary and tertiary ones after.
Yeah, I see Valeria did say it was a 30 days project, so that's actually fun too. Is like thinking of like how can you use multiple images to kind of tell a story linearly that way.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like Tima also made an illustration for you in the chat. Just want to highlight that before it disappears. Yeah.
Thank you. That's exciting.
We'll have to check it out. Yeah.
Those eyebrows.
Yeah, this is funny.
I love that. I think this is also like a really good example of how limited palette doesn't have to be boring. I think people get afraid that like sticking to one palette can feel like too repetitive, but you did a really good job of like mixing them up in different ways and different ratios so that like you get a wide variety of moods within that. So good job on that.
Yeah, totally.
I think the only other thing I would think about like within there's more in terms of process too. Cool.
Yeah, cool.
Nice. I was going to say within just the way you're presenting this, I like the way that you brought in and kind of talk about the list of fears, but it kind of jumps a little suddenly from that into the images, and I feel like you might have to like scroll back and forth between that list of fears and then these images. So it might be good to think about like either breaking that up in between like maybe 2 or 3 rows, and then you have another smaller list of the fears, and break it into segments. Or you could have the list of fear underneath some of these as well.
That's a really good point.
That way you can kind of get a better context for it as well.
Yeah, yeah. I like what you're saying about that, because I think it's like, it's already really good, but that's just like the extra 5%.
Definitely.
Like, yeah, it's like the extra little touch.
Yeah, and then I think like going forward with this, trying to decide like how will it live ultimately? Do you want all of these pieces together? Like, do you think you need the whole set for it to communicate the idea, or would you pull some of these images out for like a promo and say like these ones best get across like more of a realistic view? Because you kind of vary between, again, more editorial conceptual to maybe something that's a little more like pattern oriented, or something that's more like this piece with the family in the house that feels a little bit more grounded and like in realism than like some other ones that might be a little more fantastical or have humor brought into them as well. So just thinking about like how these pieces work together, if they're favorites you have or ones that you feel like communicate the idea the best, like choosing those is always like a little challenging, but it's fun to see.
Yeah. Let's take a look at another one. I saw some people in the chat shouting out Valeria's Inktober, so let's visit that. Wow! That's cool. So for those...
I think I saw like one of these online before.
Oh, really?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
They're so cute.
Do you think you could maybe give a like 2-sentence brief over what Inktober is for those who don't know?
Sure. So I think it grew out of people a lot of times working within traditional media, or digital media, and wanting to just like loosen up. So there's a lot of like monthly prompts and challenges, and this one was basically all throughout October you work in ink drawings, and I think it's opened up to digital inking now too. But it can run the gamut from just like straight black and white ink drawings to technical pens to ink washes like Valeria has here. And it's just a daily challenge to use a medium and see how you can push it. Some people do like anything they want, and some people kind of tailor it to a theme in that way. So this one looks like it's witchy girls.
Yeah, love it. Oh, and witchy boy. Yeah.
Witchy people.
Witchy gals. I love it.
Yeah, and I think again this is a really good way to show how you can take a long form prompt that way. I think for your portfolio, it may be, after a while, like I don't think you'd necessarily need to show all 31 to get across that you did Inktober, or you might be able to show some of them a little bit larger because I want to look in. I mean, I know I'm looking at it from a few feet away, but at the same time, I want to look at all the details that you put in here. And so because there's so many of them, I kind of don't know where to look first. So maybe taking some of them and showing them in a smaller grid first, and then like focus in on like your 3 to 4 favorite witches that you came up with for that would be really great.
Yeah, I love that. I think introducing a bit of hierarchy is really helpful. And again, it's not like your work is like already really great. It's just the last like 5% to like just it's not even changing the work. It's just like
No.
the format, like
Yeah, and it's
the
just like
presentation.
thinking. I mean, a lot of it's just like looking at the work from like an outside perspective. Like
Yeah.
obviously, it's part of Inktober, so there's that urge to show all of it and feel like it needs to be like shown equally.
Yeah.
But I think thinking about if you have a client look at this, what do you want them to most get out of the work? Like, is it just character design? Is it telling stories within it?
Right.
Like, because they can see you're drawing awesome stuff already, but you might just choose the ones that you think are like going to really sell the skills that you want to communicate to that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And we'll take a look at one more piece. Oh, sushi now. Sushi's awesome. So it looks, I don't speak Spanish.
I can
sort of read it.
poorly read it, unfortunately,
it's
right now.
for a menu of rolls and drinks.
Okay,
yes.
so yeah.
Yes. Oh, nice. Got some sushi here, some sashimi. Some drinks.
Yeah, so it looks like these are more spot illustrations that would probably be used either on a menu or within like the context of an actual restaurant, which is pretty interesting. It feels very different from a lot of your other work in your portfolio. Maybe there are other projects in there that fit it. I feel like it feels a little jarring to have this project compared to all the other ones that are like very like playful and character oriented. Not to say that they're bad at all. They're actually really fun. But I would be curious to think about how this fits into like the overall theme of your portfolio and again like what you want to get hired for. So you might just look at all the pieces that you have or all the projects that you have and think about are they really getting across what I want, or would I want to do this job again? Did I love this? Do I love making illustrations about food?
Yeah.
And just like really be really picky about like the way that you present that work, because
Yeah.
I just think this one feels a little different from everything else. So it might need like a different section of the portfolio,
Right.
or maybe make a couple more projects that are kind of similar like it too.
Yeah, something that I found to be helpful, because I tend to work with also different contexts, is grouping the sort of secondary things
Definitely.
under one category. So maybe you could have like, instead of calling the section sushi now, you could call it like food and experience design, or something, and then
Yeah.
put.
Well, especially because right now these pieces are more illustrations of the food, but we don't see the context of how it works.
Right.
And unfortunately, we don't speak Spanish, so it's not as easy for us to read. So if you have an American client or a British client or something like that, and they don't speak the language, it may be a little confusing to them how this relates to the rest of your work. So you might decide, like you said, grouping under food, you can then focus on just really awesome illustrations of food, or showing the context so that people can see it's like, oh, this was for like a space or for menus or things like that. So that context is really helpful and important.
But overall, thank you, Valeria. I
Yeah.
hope this was helpful. Your work is so lovely and delightful.
Yeah, and I can
So-
see that like all the things you have so much fun doing. I think your
Yeah.
color choice and your character design is really fun. So it's just like, again, just editing and really being picky about the kind of work you want to get. That'll make it so much stronger.
Totally. Nice. All right, we're going to switch over to Jesper's.
Hi, Jesper.
Yeah, hey, Jesper. So this is Jesper's Behance page. We've got a lot of fun, really different style projects here.
Yeah, see there's a mix of motion graphics and illustration, so I'm curious to see how that translates into the projects, if these are actually going to be in motion when we open them.
Well, I'm going to pick, here's the Adobe Live. I'm going to pick Happy Creatures.
Okay.
'Cause I think we both like them.
I was into a good happy creature.
Yes.
Ah, cute.
Nice.
So one downside, I'm not sure which animal that it actually is. Is it?
Maybe
Elephant?
Kind of looks like an elephant.
Okay.
Maybe? Don't know.
There's a mouse, so I'm assuming it's an elephant. That would
Oh,
make best
okay.
sense.
Oh yes.
Because it looks almost like a hippo/elephant, which I'm actually kind of into hybrid creatures. So
Yeah.
but just thinking about that, are there more images down below too?
No.
Okay. So I think with this one, because you only have 2 images, it feels like you're setting up for like a series. And when you only have 2, you're just going to have like an instant comparison between both those images. And they don't really feel like they quite go together just yet. besides the fact that they're charming and really fun. So I might think about like adding and fleshing out a few more creatures in there. I think you've got a really interesting thing where it's just the focus on the creature and they have a prop. So, or in the elephant's case, it's the mouse.
Yeah.
So it's got a secondary character, and you got a little bit of a hint of like character interaction and story in that. So that's a really good starting point. So maybe thinking about like maybe there's some other like another animal relationship that you wouldn't really expect. Could be fun for like a third piece, and then you can start playing around with it that way.
Yeah. Oh, Jesper says it's a made-up elephant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I also really like this series. I'd be looking forward to see the other pieces too.
Mm-hmm.
Something I think that could help you as you add more pieces to it is sort of like what Valeria was doing that was successful, was just putting even just like 2 to 3 sentences of like what's the context for this.
Definitely.
So like this was my personal challenge because I love making like fantastical creatures or whatever, like the client project or something.
Yeah, just to like share a little bit of the story behind it, I think will be really helpful because like we can definitely tell they're happy creatures just by looking at them too. So just having a little bit more story too will help.
Yeah, and awesome shapes, super fun, and like exaggerated.
Yeah, and I like the rendering. Like I don't do a lot of like shading and rendering, so I always really admire it when somebody can make something feel like it has weight in that. So
totally, I'm gonna check out this Chillin' Sloth now. Ooh. I love the fur and how you did all the details.
Yeah,
there.
that's rendered so nicely. And the color palette's it's perfect for a sloth.
Yes, totally.
He's the most chill California sloth, basically. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like this one may even be able to fit in with that last series,
I think
potentially,
so too.
because he's happy as well. So maybe that just becomes like more of a kind of pulling things together, like you were saying before, is just like a section that's all just really a focus on singular animals and just like happy, relaxing kind of characteristics in that way. Yeah. It'd be so charming.
And I love the colors you chose for the background. Super fun. I like that it's like the foreground, the colors are a bit warmer, so they really pop, but then the background colors are like really nice too and more pastel.
Yeah, I think one thing I might play around with your color though, like I think the upper right side of the whole image is really well composed. I think the bottom of the tree and then the aqua at the bottom, like it's such a bold color combo that it feels almost like it's popping forward in a way for me. So you might play with just like shifting the blue just like a little bit darker, or maybe add like a little bit of some kind of shadow of some sort, because you have this really nice like rendering and rounded quality, even though it's a little bit more stylized for the tree and for the sloth. And I think just a little bit of pushing that back so that you really just like focus in on the sloth would be really great.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't take very much at all. Just like a little bit of shifting on color.
Something you can do is the saturation trick, which is, in Photoshop, open up this image and then put a saturation layer on top and just dial the saturation down so you see this in grayscale, and you'll be able to see if there's enough contrast between the absolute tones and see if in grayscale like there's a section that's popping out in like a jarring way.
Definitely. That's a good trick for sure.
Yeah, so we'll look at one more. Move characters. Ooh. Cool.
Okay.
Oh, I like the process a lot.
Yeah, I feel like I see that a lot for animation and for motion graphics, and that's a really helpful way to just show how you work. I've seen a lot of illustrators do that too, where it's just letting you see more of the process, because I think a lot of clients really love to see like how you work and like what they can expect from hiring you too.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think, with that project, again, I think just having the context would be really helpful, because I can see it's a character-based project, but I also want to know like what it was for, and like did it ultimately live as like a campaign or something along those lines. Like he's such a cute character.
Yeah.
The colors are so bold and popping too, so.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your portfolio, Jesper. Hopefully this was helpful, and we loved looking at your charming characters. So yeah, this almost brings us to the end of our stream. It's been a really fun process of checking out Meg's style, learning about all the Photoshop tips
space now.
and tricks. And I think it'd be a really nice thing to do for, just like the end, to just tab through like the...
Just kind of walk through some
like the
things.
initial sketch.
Sure. Okay, I may have to pull those open real quick, but let me grab that. Yeah, it's been really fun to see just this come together. Where is it?
And while we're on the topic of saying goodbye for now, you can follow Meg online.
On Twitter, my name is just Meg Hunt, MEGHUNT. On Instagram, it's Meg Hunt Illo, so it's all one word, but just my name plus ILLO. And my website is meghunt.com. So
yeah, and
very
Meg also
inventive.
has a fun shop.
Yeah, so if you go to my website, you can find it that way too.
Yeah, and I'm also on the internet. I'm by Alice Lee everywhere. So byalicely.com and also at byalicely on Twitter and Insta. Yeah.
So yeah, this is the original digital sketch that I had come up with. And then we'll just kind of tap back to where this, This is where we left off at the start of the stream, where I took the drawing, started flatting some colors in. We did a little bit of like color texture stuff, but mostly it was just getting the colors in. And this is where I'm at right now. And we've got Alice's really cool cats in there. I really love them in there. And, I think there's still like a little bit more I'm going to keep tweaking at, but it's getting really close. I want to just pop some of the colors in of the goods in the bag and just like knock out some of those lines. But it's getting really bright and poppy and vivid. So, I've been having a blast doing this with you guys.
So awesome. Yeah. And maybe if you'll follow you, they'll be able to see the final piece.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll be posting it on Instagram and probably up on Behance as well. So just stay tuned. And if I do a limited color version, then we can compare how those go too.
Yay. Awesome.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks again. Be sure to stay tuned for Kathleen and Doug coming up in 8 or so minutes. Doug's at the house. And it's been a real pleasure just like getting to hang out with all of you and chat this week.
Yeah, you've all given me a lot of inspiration too, so I'm so excited to go back to Portland and take it running.
So have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. And happy drawing.
Take care. Bye.